Hey guys, Nabil here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk King of Fighters 15. I have a very special guest today. It's none other than Frionel, the very good friend, and I don't know if you know it, but he actually lives about a couple blocks from here, but we're still doing this online. So Frionel, thank you so much for being here. This is really an honor to have you on this web series.
Thank you, Nabil, for inviting me, and it's also for me an honor to be in this series among so many famous names on the community. And of course, always a pleasure to talk about KOF and share my passion. So do not hesitate. I'll be always be available for that.
Thank you. And that's where we're here. So I know the series is called Let's Talk KOF 15, but we're gonna start by talking a little bit about how you got into KOF and SNK games in general. So if you can tell us what was your first memory and what got you into these SNK in SNK games, and particularly KOF.
Well, started many years ago when I discovered like almost everyone Street Fighter 2, starting from the arcade version. And then I watched like a Super Nintendo promotion video cassette, which promoted the game. Like you see, just one round between you and Ken. And I remember that I was like amazed about the purpose of the game, the graphics and everything. So I was all Street Fighter, Street Fighter, Street Fighter. I want to get this game. I want a Super NES at home. This is my like the dream game. And actually, the summer I went to Spain with my family, where we were about to buy a Super Nintendo. Actually, I I was going with my family into different places, and we visited a lot of places. And then in one of the arcades, I was like I was faced to another game who looked like Street Fighter 2, but wasn't Street Fighter 2. It was named Fatal Fury. And that day, I was shocked because for me, Street Fighter 2 was the game, and I saw a better Street Fighter 2. With my kids' eyes. My kid eyes. I was like, wow, what's this? The effect of the power are bigger, like when you see Andy Shoken is way bigger than a small Hadoken. And at that time, the bigger the powers are and the better the game is,
Correct. Yeah.
and I was really, really impressed. And then at that time you're not really aware about what was released on console, arcade, and things
Yeah.
like that. You just
You
you
didn't have
just
that
have
information. Yeah.
the game names and just want that. So once we got the Super Nintendo, actually, I didn't get it with Street Fighter 2, which was the game that made me go to for that system. I actually got Super Mario World instead, which was a better choice in the end.
Yeah.
But because I was like, I don't want to play Street Fighter 2 anymore. I want that game. This is the game I want. And I finally, a few months after I finally got my Super Nintendo system, I got a US version of Fatal Fury on my European Super NES. So
Oh.
it didn't
That
work
was
because you
that.
need
Yeah,
a
that was always disappointing. Like it happened of all of us because living here in Morocco, we had access to the European consoles, and sometimes you get like you have family, they brought you a game thinking it's the same thing, and then you're shocked you can't use that game. Yeah, and I know the feeling.
yeah. So I couldn't play because I needed an adapter. Back in the days, I didn't know about that. So it even raised my hype for the game because it was like this game exists. You're gonna get it. You got it.
You
You got
have it,
the
yeah.
cartridge, but you can't play it yet. So it rose my hype until I finally was able to play at home with this game. And then, well, it changed my life. So maybe I'm an SNK fan from frustration. I don't know because I couldn't play that game when I got it. But yes, it started then and it didn't stop till now. Like I think I was about 8 years old back in the day when this started, and I'm 36 now. So it's been quite a long journey with SNK games.
But that was Fatal Fury from the arcade. Like for me, Fatal Fury, the first time I played it was not on the arcade. It was actually on the Genesis on Mega Drive, and I
The
still,
best
I
version.
mean, the first one was not, like when you compare it to Street Fighter 2 in terms of gameplay. I mean, clearly Street Fighter 2 is the better game in terms of gameplay, right? But But something about Fatal Fury, even though I had three characters, I just fell in love with the world, the story. You know, like this is the first time you see like a fighting game with a story, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was something never seen before, and that's how it
yes.
started for me. So
Mm.
so that's how you got into Fatal Fury. What's your memory of King of Fighters? What's the first time you heard about the King of Fighters?
Well, again, let's go in Morocco, and the neighbor country is Spain. And again, it was in on vacation in Spain in '94 actually. Uh, I was used to go to the arcades every time we've been there. Like we were used at that time to go to Spain like every summer. So it was for me my contact with the newest games and things like that. Because in Morocco it was really
Yeah,
complicated to get that. Like
yeah,
I
correct.
only experienced games through magazines because
Yeah,
that was the only way to know what is going
correct,
on. But you couldn't actually play those games
yeah,
until you have someone from abroad and something like that. So
correct.
for me, Spain was my yearly refresh, yearly update on what is going on, and mostly on the arcades because that's where you can actually play the games by just putting a coin. And I remember I went to one arcade, precise arcade that has many fighting games. I remember I was playing a lot World Heroes 2 at that arcade. I loved that game at that time. And so I went there one day, played World Heroes 2, everything normal. And the day after, I saw one of the arcade with a lot of crowd around it. I was like, what is going on? Is there something new? And then I saw the game and they were playing the King of Fighters in '94. It was the first day they got it at the arcade at that place in Spain. And so many people, I was a little kid. I was 10 years old that time. And I was like, wow, what is this? You know, Fatal Fury characters, Art of Fighting, new characters from I don't know where. I was like, whoa, my God, this is like the ultimate perfect fighting game. And I think if I'm a KOF lover for now, it's because of what happened the first time I played. Actually, so I was on the line to get my turn because it only had one game. Many people, you had to put your coin and take the line. I was the youngest among all the guys playing, and I got there and I instantly choose the Fatal Fury team because
Yeah.
I knew Fatal Fury, and at that time I actually had a Japanese copy of Fatal Fury 2 on Super Nintendo. That's
Uh-huh.
what I was playing at home.
Okay.
I started, so you had to choose your order. For sure, I had to keep Terry in the end because it was my most
Yeah.
solid character. So I played with Joy Gashi first, and I remember I charged the power gauge and tried to do the super motion from Fatal Fury 2, the screw upper,
Yeah.
and it worked. And I remember I was shocked, but not shocked, but because I made it. Everybody around the arcade was, whoa, what is this? A young kid that not speaking Spanish at all, that doing the super motion for a game that just out. They were like, whoa, what is going on? And I was so hyped. You can imagine, a 10-year kid, doing this in a foreign country.
Yeah.
This was so crazy, so crazy. And I was like, this is so good. You pick your characters from other games and you can play them the same way. Then it was so good for me. Like it was the ultimate game. And then you have three characters, not only one.
Yeah.
So for one coin, you play three different characters. That was
Exactly.
revolutionary.
Yeah,
And
that's the same for me. I love the game, but like the first thing that came to my mind, I'm like, okay, with one coin, I can't play with three characters. That's amazing.
that's three times better, right?
Exactly. I know.
And then what happened is that, of course, if you love fighting games, you love Fatal Fury, you love SNK games, you see that it's over. You don't nothing else
Yeah.
matter at all. And I came back to Morocco, and I was very young at that time, but my quest was to find this game in a local arcade because then I read about it in magazines and I know it was a Neo Geo exclusive game, no console version and things like
Hmm.
that. But I wanted to play it, so I had to run around all the arcades when I was really really young, but I had to do it to find the game. And finally, the game started to appear in different fighting game arcades. I remember, I think the first city that had the game in Morocco was Fes city, where I have part of my family. My mom's family is from that city, so it was for me an excuse. Like I was saying, I want to go to see my family, but that wasn't the case. I wanted to go because I knew they had the King of Fighters '94 arcade there. And then you know the story. Every year, a new game,
Yep.
new game, new game, until we finally got the console versions of '95, because it was the first one released in
Hmm.
console. and I had the PlayStation version because I didn't have the Saturn at that time. And for me, it was the best version ever. We know that the game is not that good at that, but
Yeah, but
it was the first
uh,
time you had
it
the
w-
game at
it
home,
was the
so
first
you
time you could
never
have
had.
like arcade quality graphics at home. Was with the PlayStation,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. With
Yeah.
the arranged soundtrack,
Oh
it
yeah,
was
too.
crazy.
Oh yes, yes, yeah. And for me, I had the U.S. PlayStation, and which sucked because all the games I was able to find here were European ones, so I was never able to get the King of Fighters '95 at the time. It was until I got my PlayStation modded in '97. So 95, 96, and part of '97 was really terrible because I couldn't play those King of Fighters games. So I was playing King of Fighters '95. I love '95, but I was playing it on the Game Boy, which is completely different game, but it was still the same fun that you would get from a normal KOF.
Yeah.
But yeah, and something that you mentioned is like, and I never thought about that. Like with fighting games at that time in the '90s, and any company that does something unique, you see the other companies, copying it. Like we had so many Street Fighter 2 clones, but surprisingly, with the King of Fighters, no other game went for the 3 versus 3, which is I think very very surprising that it didn't happen, and it kept KOF such a unique title.
That's right. That's right. We had 2 versus 2 games that were released after that. I remember the crossover series from Capcom. They had 2 versus 2. I remember Groove on Fight, which is a power instant side game, which has also tag battle game. Yeah, we had 2-on-2, but 3-on-3 was very very uncommon
Yeah,
until, well, I think that, yeah, maybe the Project Justice. I think the sequel for Rival Schools on
that
Naomi
was three versus
has.
three.
I think it's three. Yes, yes, 3 versus 3, and you can switch between rounds. And then Marvel Capcom 2. I mean, actually
Hmm.
adapted the 3 versus 3 mode, but I don't remember like in that time a game with 3 characters like KOF. It was
Yeah,
maybe so hard to do, because you
I
need to
think
make
so.
many
Yeah.
characters to allow it to be played 3 versus 3.
Yeah, for sure. Now, so out of all these King of Fighters games, which one is you think is your favorite? I mean, I know it's difficult to pick up a favorite.
Well, you know, I think there's a difference between what is your favorite and what do you think is the best.
Yeah.
That's I can have a different opinion on that, but my favorite is the King of Fighters 11 because of the game first. It's an amazing game. Production, characters, pace, tag battle in King of Fighters for me was the evolution. Like we reached something so
Mm,
far that was the only way the saga could evolve.
hmm.
I love the characters, one of the best character cast in the whole series. I love the music. I love everything about the game, the graphics, the stages. But the main reason is because me, not only as an SNK fan, but as a competitive player, this game opened new doors to me. Like I, I went to Japan for the first time because I was the Togeki European qualified player for King of Fighters 11 tournament. So I had to fly to Japan in order to play, and it opened also many competitive doors to me. It allowed me also to reach a certain level. I started becoming a champion, in this game, and many memories, many crazy sessions, many things. I have some very very touching stories. Like I have a friend. He knew I was qualified for the SBO at that time. The game wasn't released on console. He had some spare money that he went to buy the arcade version to lend it to me so I can practice for the Togeki SBO.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was crazy. I will never forget that. And yeah, so this game has a huge, it's a huge page in my competitive life. So that's why it has so many value in my heart. But the other KOF also played a big role, but this one is special.
Mm.
But
But-
this is my favorite. But if you ask me what's going to be the best, I think there's 2 games for now. They are quite different, but for me they hold what you expect for the highest KOF quality is King of Fighter 2002 Unlimited Match and King of Fighters 13,
Okay.
the console version, the climax version,
Yeah.
if you want. For me, those 2 games are the top of the KOF universe. Then you have other very good games. You have KOF 14 that is really, really close to that.
Mm.
98 UM that is also very, very good. The OG 98 which,
Yeah.
well, it's still an old game, but it's still very good. You have 2000, you have other games. But for me, 13, 2002 and then there are the solid. So like if you want the best KOF experience, that's those two games. Then you have 14, 11, 98 and maybe this is the five um, realistic KOF to play now, because the other ones are really good, but they may be outdated, And these five games, they're unique in their own way. No one is the evolution of the other. They have their own strength. So that's how I can see it.
No, you touched a little bit about your competitive, career, but I wanted to get into that in a little bit in detail. So how did it happen? Like, how did you end up going into tournaments? Is that something that you always wanted to do, or just it was just by chance that you ended up going into one of the tournaments, showing how good you are?
Well, in Morocco, in my neighborhood, I used to hold fighting games tournament at home on Super Nintendo, on PlayStation. That's something I used to do. For me, competing on a tournament is something normal, and I think it's the Tenkaichi mode, the tournament mode from the Dragon Ball Z games on Super Nintendo that created that mindset in my mind, because you could actually hold a tournament in those games. You have a
I
tournament
remember that.
mode, and it became like a common thing, And I remember my birthday actually was the moment of the year where we have to fight to know who is the best in the neighborhood on each game. So it was common, but I was very young at that time. And then when I grew up, I started going a lot into the arcades. The older you are, the easier you're allowed by your parents to spend time there and spend money there. But so putting my coin in order to keep playing was something natural. You have to be the best, in order to be allowed to play for a long time. But I didn't do like official tournaments because there weren't anyone here in Morocco. And when I went in France, it felt natural. I didn't think about it, I was there, started meeting the community, started going to the arcades, playing there. Then I heard of one tournament. So I was living in Paris, and the tournament was in Nancy, another city in France. And I remember I had a very good friend of mine, which is Yamazaki 93. He's very famous in the Capcom versus SNK2 competitive scene. He was the best European player for a very long time, a real monster. And he knocked on my door and said, "Come with me. We are gonna take the train. We're going to another city to play tournaments." And they have KOF tournament. It was KOF 2002 and SNK versus Capcom tournament. Okay. And so he said, "You have to go there. I'm sure you have your chances." So I entered the SVC tournament and KOF 2002, and it was my first KOF tournament, SNK Games tournament in my life. I remember the finals were played in a cinema, how do you say, theater, So we played on the big screen. That was completely crazy for me coming from Morocco, And I don't know, but I actually won the KOF 2002 tournament, and I also won the SVC tournament. Well, the SVC tournament, we didn't finish the tournament because the other players, they withdrew from the tournament. But for the records, some of the best French players, actually, they arrived late, so they couldn't enter the tournament. But, well, that's not my fault.
Yeah, of course
I won. So actually, my first KOF tournament, I won my first KOF tournament, and I won two, I think I still got them somewhere, two KOF 2000 figures that looks really bad of K-Dash and Kyo, and I still got them. That was my prizes for winning those two tournaments. So that's part of luck, part of a lot of things. But when you enter your first tournament and you actually win, it gives you enough confidence to just keep on going. Correct. And yes, and I think my tournament record, at least while I was living in Europe, was kind of good. Like I was able to keep it.
That's good. So this is around the time when 11 came out, and then you started focusing on 11, or was that?
Well, I had the 2003 era. I am one of the KOF 2003 players, actually.
I didn't know you played 2003. I didn't know you played 2003.
So
that's a game that does not have a not a lot of people like that game. I'm not sure why.
I'll be honest, it's a very bad KOF, and maybe one of the baddest, like the worst KOF ever. Really? But
Mm.
At that time, it was the only thing you had if you didn't want to play 2002. And
Yeah.
some of the players actually played the game. And we had a very, very big tournament in Cannes City in France. It was called the World Game Cup. And I think I still got it actually. Yes, Cannes World Game Cup. I actually held the third
Oh.
place in that tournament in KOF 2003. And I won the SNK versus Capcom tournament. And my gift, I remember the prize was an SNK versus Capcom joystick that I still have somewhere, I think here over there. But actually, but so I was third place in that tournament. The top one and two were a little too strong for me. Well, the second place is a very famous player called Bruno Weiss, which was the French champion for years from KOF 94, I think. So yeah, I have a competitive career in 2003. The game is not that good, but we had tournaments and stuff like that.
Well, that's good. So after that, then you switched to 11, I guess, when it came out.
Well, during 11 Life, I actually got a chance to. Well, I went to Japan for Togeki tournament, and I came back to France. But then I had the chance to go study in Japan. So, so I was living there during the end of 11 and the
Hmm.
beginning of 98 because
Okay.
that was the game we had after 11. 98 was a very, very interesting experience for me because I actually didn't play 98 that much.
Hmm.
At that time, so just to come back a little in time, KOF 97 kind of not disgusted me, but it's refrained my motivation for KOF. I didn't really like the game, how it played. I loved the story part, the one player experience, but I didn't really like the game, how it played. And, the fact that you can unlock the boss characters, the Orochiori and things like that, and the numbers of infinites and broken things in this game. And I still don't know how the Moroccan players, they knew about that back in the days, but they knew. It kind of disgusted me of the game. So I was more into Fatal Fury, the Real Bout series at that time. And when 98 came out, I was into Real Bout Dominated Mind, which was the
Hmm.
PlayStation version of this game. It's a
Yep.
new game, it's different, very interesting to try. And I played 98, of course. I loved the game, but didn't push that competitive uh, level. I was
Hmm.
just playing for my own, knowing the characters, doing some combos. I played a lot to the Neo Geo Pocket version, but
Yeah.
I didn't really put. So when 98 was coming, for me it was a chance to actually make peace with 98, and give a chance to the game, even if it's a new version with more characters that are more into my liking. I like 98 way more than 98. And having the chance to live in Japan when a new KOF comes is a unique experience. I remember I was the first one to put my coin in the Acho arcade when the game was installed. I was there waiting for the guy to put the game into the machine. And I was like, can I put my coin? Can I put? I want to play. I want to play. I want to be the first one. So I was actually the first one in Acho arcade to put my coin. And
That's
actually,
that's such a unique experience.
yeah, and actually I did a 10 winning streak with that. Just going, I played the team I'm playing now, EX Andy, Krauser and EX Giz, and I was able, and it became my team. And to stay in the competitive life, I had some achievement in this game. So the first one I remember perfectly. It was the April 26th, my birthday day, 2008. It was the Togeki qualifier for KOF 98. So Togeki qualifier is organized in every participating arcade, like game centers, and
Mhm.
they had a tournament, and the winner is qualified for Togeki. So you
Okay.
have to win a tournament in a Japanese arcade. And it was the first tournament. It was held in Osaka in Game Avion. It's an arcade that actually still exists. It
Mhm.
survived. And winning the first qualifier is the quickest way and easiest way to actually get qualified, because the level is not really high, and you can rest if you
Mm.
qualify in the first, because you have to let everybody fight for
Okay.
that last
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So, but if everybody thinks like that, you end up to see everybody coming from all around Japan to actually qualify in the first, So instead of being an easy one, it
Yeah, I
became a
did that.
very hard one because everybody got the same idea. I remember many players from Tokyo, they actually came to Osaka for that qualifier. And I was there, well, some people knew me from my 11 appearance in Togeki. Most of them, they didn't know me. They just see a guy with the foreigner face, and that's it. And that day, I can't explain what happened. I actually reached the finals of the tournament. I won every game till the finals. I was on fire. I don't know what happened. And then I lost, so I couldn't
Oh,
qualify. But I was in the final of my first 98 UM tournament. It was crazy. Like everybody was shocked, and so many good players like Kabetsu, they lost on the first round. It's because it's one game, so anything can happen. And
oh, it's
maybe
not
because
it's
it was
not best of two. Just one. You
no, no, no,
lost.
it's one game, and the
Oh,
auto tournament is one game,
oh,
so you're
okay.
not allowed to lose. Maybe because it was my birthday, I don't know. I had a lot of luck, so I actually was in the final. So everybody was like, "This guy is dangerous," blah blah blah. I can do something, and then I tried other qualifiers, but I couldn't get that lucky. I was like the best. I think it was maybe third place or something like that.
Okay.
Then I played into the KOF 98 UM Togeki Last Chance. So the Last Chance tournament is actually the day of the tournament. There is one remaining spot, and you have
Oh,
to and actually to be able to enter, you have to win a lottery because there are too many people entering, but not many places for the tournament.
okay.
So you have to be lucky to win the
Mm.
lottery to get your place. I had that luck first, so I was able to enter, and I was into the semifinals of the tournament. It was very, very hard, and it was for me a good achievement. I wasn't able to actually qualify,
Yeah.
but I ended at third place of that tournament, which is a big achievement from me personally in 98 UM. And then after that, I finally won a Japanese tournament in the arcade. It was organized in Gigo Arcade in Ikebukuro. They had some kind of bi-weekly tournament in KOF 98 UM, and everybody gathered that time. And I had my day one time, and I was able to win. So I had this nice trophy from the arcade, which was very good. And after that, I came back to France. And after that, well, it was 2002 UM console version.
Yeah, it was. So both those games came before 12. So
Well, same year, 2002
yeah,
UM and 12, they
yeah,
were about the same year. Well, the console version, which is a
yeah.
different than the
Did you
arcade.
did you like did you get into 12 at all?
Yes, yeah. Well, first time I tried, I was like, it looks very good, but it's awful to play. Oh my God,
Yeah.
this might not be a good game. And I personally knew there are very good friends of mine, the arcade owners that bought the game very expensively. They were starting a new arcade for the revival of fighting games at that
Mhm.
time, and they bought the game, the exclusive version, exclusively in Europe, very, very expensive. I think they had to make a deal with SNK to get a copy for Europe.
Oh wow.
But playing the game, I was like, man, it sucks. But maybe because we don't know how to play,
Yeah.
let's push. Well, I had two tournaments in this game. I finished second at the first one, and I won the other one. So I was actually okay in the game,
Yeah.
but nah, nah. Very good, very bad game. And my only chance was, okay, let's hope for a console version, because
Mm.
maybe going training mode, you might discover things that.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the quickest road in training mode I had in any fighting games ever. It it lasted 20 minutes. In 20 minutes, I had nothing to test or try, nothing new to
Yeah.
discover with my characters. I was like, oh my God, that's
Yeah,
over.
'cause it was very limited. Not enough, not enough moves. I mean, it seemed like they were working towards 13. It felt like a demo. That's what it felt like.
Well, when you know the story, you know that it's actually a demo,
Yeah,
yes.
correct. So 13 came out, and that was a game changer. It's one of the
Well,
best.
before 13, there was 2002 UM, which
Yeah,
was huge in France. Huge, 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 huge. There were a lot of players. We had a lot of tournaments. I think I tried to count last time in just this game. I think in Europe, I think I had about 20 or 25 different tournaments. That was that was huge. Not as huge as what 13 gonna be, because it's gonna be even bigger. But 2002 was a very, very important cornerstone for the competition in
Yeah.
KOF. Many players, they grew up in this game, and we've traveled to Japan a lot of times to get better. We had players from abroad, from Korea, from Japan, coming in France, so we could play with them. And yeah, this game is something unique. Very, very, very strong
Mm.
community. And actually, one of the French players, he was able to do what nobody did. He was actually able to pass one round in Togeki by beating one of the favorite player of the tournament.
Oh
So
wow.
shout outs to Zed Kirua, who was the first French player to actually do that in KOF. And yeah, so 2002 was big. And then KOF 13 arcade version.
Yeah. No, that was huge. And the console version, of course, and it's one of the, looking at the tournaments, seeing evos and everything, it's definitely the biggest reception a KOF got into esports tournaments, I would think. I mean, 14 is pretty close, but 13 was, I think, is was unique in this aspect.
While 13, the arcade version first opened some doors, because you can only play it in arcade, and only for limited player, but it has a training mode, which was a revolution, because you could go to the arcade, and even if there's nobody, you could actually practice to get better.
Mm.
And this played a major role on how building the overall level of the scene in this game, because we were able, thanks to the training mode, to actually get better in arcade, like we could be by owning the game at home. And I remember for this game, I did something that, well, that was really funny. But so the game, it was out, and it had a first version called 1.0, which had a lot of bugs and infinites. Like some characters could do an infinite combo, like Joe, like Mature, and some characters, they could have free EX moves,
Oh
like
wow.
Daimon or Takuma. Yes, so like they have zero meter, and they could use EX moves. And there's some kind of bugs. So we had that version in France first. It arrived, and then the 1.1 version came out in Japan, and I flew to Japan to enter there's a famous KOF tournament over there called um, what was the name? Dueling the KOF. It was a yearly thing every year, and they choose different KOF games, and it's a team tournament most of the time.
Okay.
So I entered Dueling the KOF in 2002 and 13, so the version 1.0. It was the last 1.0 version. And the funny thing is that I entered the tournament with two SNK staff, one very close friend of mine, and another one who was I think he worked in bug checking and things like that. So it was a very weird team, but I still have those memories. So I played the last 1.0 tournament, and we didn't do that good. So, and after that, so it was in Osaka, well, in Kyoto, because it's in Acho. But then I came back from Kyoto to Tokyo. So the first day, they actually updated the version to 1.1. And I'll be honest, I spent a lot of time playing KOF 13. Like, I mean, I was waking up, uh, doing my morning routine, walking to the arcade, and I was staying from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. in the
Wow.
arcade. Yes, playing KOF 13. If
Yeah.
there's nobody to play with me, I had the training mode. I didn't care. At that time, it changed for now because we're in a different era. But at that time, everybody was saying, if you go to Japan, you become stronger.
Hmm.
And a lot of were saying, no, that's not true. You can go to Japan and still be a bad player. That's not
Hmm.
magic. It's not Kaio's planet. You,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But a lot of people were saying that, and it was really funny because after that, I think I spent like 2 weeks in Japan doing that, that routine, working, go arcade, playing 13 only. I came back to France, and I remember they had a KOF special party, like night party, where the arcade stayed open all night long.
Mhm.
And I remember I sit in the KOF 13 arcade. They had the 1.1 update at that time. I sit, put my coin, and I think I did 96 winning streak. I played like for about 5 hours without moving from the arcade. Nobody could beat me at all.
And
Like
that's because the
all the
experience of
legends.
you of going through all these, strong Japanese players and training, I think, is of course is
Yeah, yeah. Well, that legend that he went to
yeah,
Japan and came back. Well, I
yeah,
made it through. Like
yeah.
yes,
It's real.
if you do some crazy routine, but it could work
Yeah.
actually. So, and then
Um,
after that, we finally
yeah.
had the console version, and the console version was changed the KOF world forever. So
Nice.
many
Yeah.
things happened. That was crazy. It was my first time going to Evo by actually, well, I won the qualifier. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I won. Yes, we had a Road to Evo qualifier in France with all European players coming, and actually won the tournament and got qualified to go there.
Hmm.
I well, I didn't do really well. I think I ended 33
Hmm.
among. Well, we were 1,000,
So it's not bad.
but a lot
Yeah.
of them were only there because there was a free my T-shirt if you register to the tournament. So actually, it was for $10. You have a my T-shirt. So there were a lot of fake
Yeah.
entrants, but I didn't do really well in that tournament. And I remember I lost to Luis Cha on the pools. So I had to go to loser bracket, and I went out of the pools, and then I lost to Chris KOF at that tournament. Then I came back to France and have a very, very good record. Well, I won Stunfest in 13 Arcade. I did a couple of second and first place in a lot of tournaments. I actually won our major. It was called the Champions League, which was like one of the like we had all the best players and playing long sets, so to define who is the best.
Hmm.
And I remember I was on the final against Luffy, the Street Fighter player, who was a very good KOF player, and it was between me and him. Everybody was surprised about Luffy going there. They were expecting other players, and I won that tournament. So, and yeah, I had a very, very good record. I went back to Evo again. I wasn't able to win the qualifier, but I went to Evo by myself. I've been to Mexico. I did a tournament there where I ended third place.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yes, so it was a very, very intense with high level tournament. So for my first time there, I'm kind of satisfied with that result. Then I ended 17th place at Evo by losing. So I lost against Mad KOF, who
Hmm.
was the tournament holder, the champion
Hmm.
holder, and then I lost to Haregoro, a Japanese Joigashi player who's really, really strong. But I beat Luis Cha, who
Oh, you
beat who
did.
beat
Okay, so you
yes, yes.
revenge. Yeah.
So I got my revenge. I couldn't get my revenge against Chris KOF, but I got my revenge against Luis Cha that time. But I lost to Haregoro. Then, well, many, many other tournaments, but the two biggest, like for me, like staple events for 13, we had the Korea tournament. It was called IGT tournament. It was the most stacked KOF 13 tournament ever, with $10,000 for the first. So you can
Oh wow.
imagine it was crazy. Players from all around the world, they get there. I was able to go there thanks to the community. All my friends, they actually uh, paid for my
Oh.
tickets so I can be able to be there. Fox from France was there also. Canibalito from Mexico was there. All the top Japanese players, and Shanghai was there. Et was there. Tokido was there. Like all the Koku was there. All the top world class players. They actually been to that tournament, and I actually, well, it was very hard, and I practiced a lot, for that. I was living in Morocco at that time, so I was already back in Morocco. So I
Uh-huh.
practiced with the Moroccan players for that tournament. And I remember, I well, I beat Kuku in Stunfest
Hmm.
1 year before, which was the surprise because everybody was expecting Kuku to win the tournament. So I actually beat Kuku in Stunfest in a very crazy match, but that was a big surprise. So I had to face Kuku again, and he got his revenge
Oh.
in Korea. So he sent me to losers bracket, and then I had to beat Harigoro in order to get to top 8. The same Harigoro who beat me in
Oh,
USA,
that's cool. That's cool. So,
and I beat him. Actually, I defeated him, and I was able to go to top 8 for that tournament. I ended 7th place, which was a major achievement, like one of the biggest tournament in the world for KOF 14, and being able to be top 8. That was one of my highest achievements in this game, and that led us to 1 year after that, Stunfest 2015, which was like for many of us the end of KOF 13, the
Yeah.
last final road
Correct.
tournament. Very, very stacked tournament, because we had, of course, also Tokido won the 10,000 tournament. So he actually was the world best player, but he couldn't win Evo. He lost to Shanghai on the finals. But he was one of the best for sure. So we had Tokido. We had all the best European players. We had Xian also from Singapore, who was there. And we had the legend Mysterio from Chile. So Mysterio is like maybe the best fighting game player I've seen in my life in a game. Mysterio came like a tornado and he defeated everyone. Like Shanghai, the Evo champ, he beat him easily in different tournaments. Like he OCV'd him, like he looked like a puppy to him. So Mysterio was for us it was inhuman, he was above everything else. And he was at that tournament, Stunfest in France. He actually defeated me in winner's bracket in the most, how can I say, he did something that I couldn't believe a human being can do. He crouched C on counter hit and activated max mode into climax console. Like, to do that, you had to, it's not about only reaction, it's about something above that. And when you lose, you are confident, I was like, I'm not that bad, come on, I was top 8 in the tournament, blah blah blah, like I'm not. But when you got hit by something like that, you have a shock. You feel like,
exactly,
I'm just a human.
Yeah.
And he sent me to loser bracket, and I had one of the hardest loser bracket road. I had to beat all my nemesis and rivals from the old my KOF lifetime. And I have to beat everyone, all the French European champion, one after the other, to be able to come back to the big stage to play Mysterio again, because Mysterio, he lost to Tokido, which was a very, very big surprise. So I had to play Mysterio in 3 games. It's not only beat him once, you had to beat him 3 times. And again, I don't know what happened that time, but I beat him in a very, very crazy confrontation. I was able to beat him, to beat the legend. I was like, what happened? I almost cried, And then I couldn't face Tokido. Like, of course, he was above me, he was better than me. But after playing these games with Mysterio, with all this run, I had no more gasoline, no more fuel to fight Tokido, and he was way, way above me, of course. And with that ends my 13, story with the main. But as you heard, there a lot happened in that game for me personally.
And it is a very unique game, and it's just, it's right now, it really is, as you said, that with O2UM, it's really the pinnacle of KOF. And then 14 came out, and you were actually pretty involved in 14 terms from an esports perspective. So what do you think about that game compared to coming from 13?
Well, like everyone, I didn't like that first trailer at all.
We'll be talking about that first trailer when we switch gears to King of Fighters 15 in a little bit.
Yeah. So, but it wasn't like my reaction at that time was a little unfair, because I was actually defending the game and saying, everyone, hey guys, don't worry, it has to be a good game, don't worry. But at that time, well, I knew about things, that let me have hope, because I have friends that were involved in the game, and I have faith on my friends. But I could just say, hey guys, the guys working on the game, they're good guys, don't worry, it's gonna be good. I couldn't say that because it has no value. Actually, it's only my faith into them,
Mm-hmm.
But I was really positive on that game. I tried to support the game as long as I could, because I believed in the game. And actually, well, the game ended way better than what I'd expected, because aside of the graphics,
Mm.
which, well, we know there's
Yeah,
no point to discuss, it was a very, very cool game, very, very rich game, and it ended to be one of the most balanced KOF game ever,
correct. Yeah,
with the at that time the best netcode ever for a KOF game. It was actually the first KOF game that we could play online,
correct. When
no matter
13 came out in
whatever.
consoles, it was unplayable in consoles.
Yeah,
The other
no,
games as well on the Xbox Live. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
this
yeah.
was the
So,
best
so that
online.
was the first time we played KOF online. That was
Correct.
a
Yeah.
huge thing. That was the first time we had a KOF with major balance patches
Hmm.
through the whole game life.
Yep.
We never had that. We had to play with the game. Sometimes one version that changed, and that's it.
Yep.
So the game, and we have more characters. The game actually added 8 more characters,
Yeah.
which I remember it had 50 characters from the start. We
Yeah.
never had that. Like
Correct. Yeah.
maybe 2002 UM, it is combination of other
But
games.
that's
But
yeah,
for
that's an event game. So that was
new
expected.
game with 50 characters, so content wise, there's many things to do. The game plays like KOF. It's a really interesting game, and there's something that 13 didn't have, is you could play different styles in 13. Because of the way the game is balanced and designed, the game was about offensive game style. Of course, there were players that have their own style. We've been talking about Mysterio. He created his own zoning KOF game that nobody could do, but he was able to do it. But the main game was about offense and getting into it. So you spend more time doing things, attacking or blocking, than just spacing in 13. In
Mhm.
14, because of the variety of the characters and because the way the game moves, you
Yeah.
could actually play different styles. You can be offensive, you can be more neutral, more distance zoning
Hmm.
oriented. You can play grappling style, you can play weird style like Choi, Mian, and
Yeah.
things like that. So there are many different fighting
Correct.
styles
Mhm.
allowed in this game, and this is something 13 didn't have. So as a player, for learning, to get better, I think 14 gives you more tools to actually be a
Mhm.
better KOF player than 13 can be.
Really? Oh, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. So you think for people who are new, who's just who are interested now with 15 coming out, trying to get into 15, do you think they're better focused on 13 right now or 14 in terms of they want to
14,
be into KOF?
14, 14.
14.
That's the latest one. It's the same teams behind the both games. Like the majority of people involved in one are involved in the other one, and you have more characters, more styles, and the game is easier to understand than 13. So no, no. If you have the choice between both games, go for 14. Especially now, you have a perfect version of the game, because if you got now, you got at the latest version, which is the most balanced one, the most complete one, with many different characters. And I suggest you to start from this one if you start. If you're already to a certain level, I had a chance to have people to play against in 13. Please play 13. But 14 for now is the best door actually to get into KOF, and it has online, and the online works. You can
Correct.
find people to play with. So
Yes, I mean I do rooms. I used to do them weekly. Now not anymore. I can't. I'll try to keep doing that again. But I mean, there are always people playing 14, always, which is a good thing.
yeah,
Now 14, you spend a lot of time competing, right? I mean, it was you did compete in 14. You participated in quite a few international tournaments.
yeah.
What was your experience briefly compared to 13 in terms of from an esports perspective with 14?
Well, I had a very good start because I actually entered. Well, I had a beta tournament in Stunfest. I finished second to Shanghai, and then I entered the Evo Invitational. So for like 1 month before the release of the game, they had a tournament on the final version, was well the 48 characters version.
Mhm.
Antonov and Verse were not unlocked at that time
Okay.
on the game, and they invited like 64 players, like from the best players around the world into this game, and I actually ended third place in this tournament. And so it started my competitive career with with some kind of good energy, because even if the game wasn't out, I was able to quickly understand how you have to play to this game. And then after that, my personal record, well, we had the first big tournament in Europe. We gathered 80 players. It was called Return of the King. And I left France many years ago, so I came back to that tournament, and as a king, I won the tournament. So when I read Return of the King, I feel like I was the king in that day because I actually won the tournament. I was against Alioun, a very good fighting game player in France. This winning major win in the game gave me the chance, among other things, but I got an invitation to the SNK, the King of Fighters World Championship in Japan in February 2017, which was an international world with the best, with the like 16 best players from all around the world. So some had to win a qualifier to get there, and they had some special invitational tickets. And I was one of the
Oh,
special
wow.
invitational one. Because the tournament I won wasn't an official qualifier, so I couldn't get a qualifying spot, but with the tournament that wasn't a qualifier. But they actually invited me to be representative of Africa slash Middle East. That was
Oh,
the
cool.
region I was supposed to represent. And well, it was again a one game tournament style, so you had one chance, and we had a loser bracket that was first to two. It was very weird the way it was done.
Mhm.
I felt SNK were not really prepared to hold that well. The production value was great. It was on a theater and things like that with commentary and good things. We had a good trailer teasing the new DLC characters and things like that, but the tournament organization wasn't really good, and I tried to help actually. Well, I was one of the reason we actually had a loser bracket because I fight for it, but I didn't have my chance in the tournament because I lost to Et. You know him on the first
Yeah, yeah.
round, and then I had to face um Daku, the Chinese
Oh,
player in
yes.
loser
Very,
bracket,
very
and
strong player too.
yeah, and he defeated me. So I didn't do really good, but just the fact to be invited there, to be recognized and one of the best players in the world, just like that,
Of course. Yeah.
for me, with my modest level, it's more than enough.
Mm.
And then, well, I had a not very successful tournament record. I won some tournament here in Morocco. Did pretty good in Evo. I ended 22nd in first Evo USA in this
Good.
game, which was the only one organized. In Evo Japan, I wasn't able to do that good. It was really hard. I went out of the pools from winner bracket, but I think I was like 65th or something like that, which was okay, but
Yeah.
not enough to be reminded. And I've been to Evo Japan this year, and I ended 13th place, which was good.
Oh,
If
pretty
maybe
good.
my
Yeah.
best Evo placement actually, if you don't put the invitational tournament for KOF, which was okay, and that's it. But I be honest, even if I loved the game, my personal and professional life didn't allow me to
Mm-hmm.
do what I'm doing in
Of course.
13.
Yeah.
To be clear, so I would have loved to play more to this game, but I ended to be in a stage of my life where I had other priorities, other things to do that are maybe better to do than practice KOF, and that's why. So I played the game most likely with my experience from the other KOF games, and of course I had some hours in practice. I wouldn't say I didn't play, but it's maybe I didn't play half of the time I spent
Yeah.
in 13, for
And
example.
knowing this is the first game that started from the consoles first before the arcade, so that
Yeah.
was a plus that you could easily get the game and play it at your place. But again, as you said, one reaches a certain period of their life, professionally and family, and
Absolutely.
then you start, it's difficult to find time to play and practice and spend hours practicing a game. But I mean, either with that, I mean, you did pretty good. You've been in so many KOF 14 tournaments, and as we said, the game turned out to be
Oh
great.
yeah, I didn't say, but I actually the first game that got me sponsored as a sponsored professional player from a
Oh, really?
Moroccan
Okay.
company. Yes, yes.
Oh, I didn't know
Uh,
that. All right.
yeah. They actually flew. They flew me to Evo twice. I played under their colors. Yes. So thanks to 14.
Oh, okay, okay, good, good. So yeah, I mean, it's a and the whole game turned out pretty good. And of course, now we have King of Fighters 15 coming out, and it's been quite a long, well, a year and a half now since that first teaser. I've been counting the days, and
Yeah.
we were hoping for something at this past Evo. Of course, Evo didn't happen. We hoped for that around Japanese Game Developers Roundtables, and we had a little tiny tease. Then we said it's probably Tokyo Game Show. Nothing happened. So after disappointment, finally we had something last week or a couple of weeks ago. What did you think about that teaser, that trailer of a trailer?
Well, I wasn't expecting that much because we had a logo, okay, but we had some character designs and some nice comments from the devs. Well, I'll be honest, I felt like a kid, you know? I was so excited, so excited. I spent hours watching those artworks, that logo, and watching the video, actually trying to read between lines, trying to get something, you know. I was so excited. I know, you know, I like it hit me on the face that I'm such a fanboy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like this is passion. This is above logic. This is there was this. It's the announcement of an announcement that might end to be just the announcement of something else.
No.
But there's so the passion burning inside. You know, you can't hide it. No, I can't just say, oh, yes, okay, so we're gonna wait. No, bullshit.
Yeah.
I was excited. I was like a kid waiting for Christmas. I don't know. It was maybe more than Christmas. It was so I was so crazy. And I will tell you the truth. I keep watching that logo and artworks and feel the excitement. You know, it's weird. Maybe because we had nothing.
I
Maybe
know it's.
because
I can't explain it either. It's weird. Like I would never get excited about a logo and a couple sketches, and it's
that's
just weird.
so sad.
And I said this. I think I said it in another episode. I don't remember if I did, but I told you this because I didn't know it was dropping. I was on a phone call, a work phone call, and then you sent me a message like, "Did you see the teaser trailer for King of Fighters 15?" And I panicked. It was like somebody told me something important, like earth shattering is happening. That I hung up on the guy without even noticing. I literally, the guy was talking, I froze, I zoned out, and then I found myself, I hung up, and I was like looking online to see what's happening, and I wasn't disappointed. It's just strange, strange. But and then it didn't stop there, right? I mean, they said January 7th, so thanks to SNK, now time is slower than ever because we're counting the hours until January 7th. And then there was that interview that happened and took place or appeared last week, where Oda-san was saying that King of Fighters 15 is going to be a masterpiece, and that
The
just
ultimate,
the supreme
ultimate master, supreme, yes,
supreme
masterpiece.
masterpiece, which is okay. First of all, I said maybe this is a translation error because it came from Japanese interview that was translated to Chinese and then from Chinese to English. So I went back to, I couldn't find the Japanese version, but I could find the Chinese text, and I did Google translated myself, of course, and just saw, and it's actually it seems that it's there. And Oda is a very humble guy. He's not the kind of person who comes and hype up his game, all the time. Like they didn't do that for 14. They didn't do that for Samurai Showdown, which is two great games. So, well, how did you feel when you see that?
Well, I will be honest. When he said that it was the most ambitious KOF game, I already started to feel like I know these guys. They're really humble. They're really modest. You know, they're not like that. So if they say something and if they kept all the information from themselves until now, so it means that they are really confident. They know that they're gonna do something good. And I can explain what this confidence come from. Actually, I will tell you something. To be honest, I don't expect any visual astonishment for KOF 15. I know I'll be pleased, but that's not where I wait. That's not what I wait from the game. You know, deep inside of me, maybe I'm saying that to myself just to not be frustrated if it doesn't look as good as people expect. But I be honest, this is not where I wait
Mm.
them. And knowing them, knowing the way they made 14, I don't think their confidence come from that part,
Okay.
which made me very excited because they're confident because 14, even with the graphics it has, was actually a successful game
Hmm.
in terms of popularity, especially in Japan. The game was huge. The fan base was huge. Actually, this game was more played than 13 in Japan.
Really?
It's a difference. Yes, that's crazy.
Wow.
13 didn't do that great in Japan, to be honest. It
Mm.
wasn't the
Okay.
major KOF over there. It has its community, but 14 was like the resurrection of KOF
Mm.
in Japan. It did really good in Asia in general, and it
Mm.
did okay in terms of sales all around the world. Like we could see some kind of numbers you can on PlayStation databases and Steam
Hmm.
databases, things like that, and we can see that actually the numbers of the game for a KOF game are really
Yeah.
high,
Hmm.
especially for a game that didn't have a big ambition to
Yeah.
begin with. It was their way to get in, to
Yeah.
restart making game, to make the transition from 2D to 3D, and it actually ended well, with not a lot of budget, I want to
Mm.
say,
Yeah.
because they put their hearts on what really matters to us: the content, the players, the characters, the gameplay, this KOF feeling, the music, this kind
Hmm.
of production value, aside of the graphics, that actually matters to the KOF fan base, and it worked. The game was successful. Whatever some haters think, because they build another reality because they were not a part of it. A
Yeah.
lot of people, they're not, because they were not a part of it, they think that the game doesn't exist. But
Yeah.
actually, it exists. It has a life. It has a good business, like sales life. It has a good competitive life. It was there. You wasn't there, but the game was there, to be for sure. And succeeding in doing that, and now having more experience, more time, more technology, maybe
Hmm.
more staff, I don't know, maybe more money, I don't know, more budget, I don't know. But this confidence can only come from that, because if they succeeded with that, and they know what they have to do. So I feel that the confidence is coming from there. I don't think, because a lot of people think that they're gonna see some kind of guilty gear graphics, some
Yeah.
kind of
I mean, yeah, a lot of people
I
are hoping that. I honestly, I was hoping it's gonna look like that. And then I saw this comment on Twitter, and it really did stick with me. And then the guy said, "I don't want King of Fighters 15 to have Guilty Gear graphics because I don't want King of Fighters 15 to have 16 characters." And
ex-
it's a good
exact.
point.
Well, Strive, I think, is gonna be 11 characters or something like that. But yes,
Yeah,
and that's the major point. We, as long as we have a lot of characters, it's
yeah,
okay that the graphics doesn't match those games with 20 characters to the maximum,
yeah.
because we're not talking about the same thing. We want a
Correct.
lot of characters because we want to make our teams. It's a 3 versus 3 games. It's about
Yeah,
the characters, not
yeah,
about not
and
nothing else.
14 launched with 50, so it already raised the bar pretty high. So I'm sure they don't want to go way lower than
No,
that.
I don't see that. I don't see them doing that.
Yeah.
I don't see them doing that. So I think the confidence come from that. But of course, we'll see. Maybe we're gonna have some very beautiful KOF with less characters. Maybe that's the choice they will decide to do. Only the future will tell. But
Correct. Because again, they,
and
they they're
going
very
on,
conscious about 14 and what happened. I mean, when the first trailer dropped, as we said before, I mean, the reactions were really bad. I mean, and unfortunately, yes, the game is great, but that first reaction did stick with the game. Maybe not among KOF players, but a lot of people just decided to not even give the game a chance because of how it looked.
yes, yes,
So I'm
yeah.
sure they
So
don't want to do that with 15.
no. They learned the lesson, but again, there's another thing. They know that they have the trust of their already existing player base.
Correct.
So what I think, and that's my personal point of view, is that whatever we see on January 7th, I'm pretty sure the fans will love it. And the haters, they will still find a way to hate it. I'm
Correct.
pretty sure. I
That's
don't
true.
I don't see them showing something that would actually turn haters to lovers.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that first trailer, I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure.
Yeah.
Maybe with the full game content, okay, but the first trailer, I'm not sure it's gonna switch. I think it's just gonna rise our excitation as
Yeah.
fans, I don't see the haters just magically say, "Oh, that looks interesting now."
Mhm.
I don't imagine. But if they do that, then it's over. The success is guaranteed for sure.
So what are your hopes and expectations for that first trailer? I mean, it's about 4 weeks
Mm,
from now.
I, again, I will block and put my defense and activate my psycho shield. Some gameplay because they have to show us how the game looks.
Yeah,
Some cinematics because usually that's what you do first when you produce a fighting game
yeah,
because you need to finish the voice recording uh, work
yeah,
and usually work on that. Sometimes you just go for other studios to do that, but I'm expecting to see some fighting, some gameplay, maybe with no HUD,
yeah.
just some gameplay, but real camera this time, not like 14, and maybe some cinematics, and maybe we're gonna see 5 or 6 characters. Well, I'm expecting to see the 5 characters that are already revealed.
Yeah,
I think that's
probably.
why they
I,
revealed them. I
mhm.
think it's because we're gonna see them, and that's it. I don't think they're gonna show a lot of characters because if they do like 14, the promotion, the character reveal is a part of the promotion of the game, and it's a very important point, as I said before. So I'm not expecting them showing that much, but we're gonna see at least the characters we've seen
Yeah,
the designs, and
maybe some
that's
teases for next characters, kind of like what they were doing with
yeah, maybe
14.
or maybe a teasing for the next trailer.
Yeah,
That's what I expect. But again, I'm putting my expectation very low
to not
because
exactly. That's a good strategy, so you don't get
yeah, yeah.
disappointed.
I don't imagine the trailer with all the characters, the system,
No,
no.
it's too early for that. I mean, this is the first
Yeah,
trailer,
I
so
think it's early for
you're
that
right. You're
also.
probably gonna have some cinematics. They have to show some gameplay at this
Yeah,
point
they
because
have to.
it's
The
about
in-game
time.
engine
Yeah,
actually.
exactly. So we're probably gonna see some graphics. We'll finally know how the game is gonna look. And as you said, but the
We're
thing
gonna
is, this
look.
is hmm?
We're gonna finally see how the game is gonna look at an early stage.
Early stage, obviously. Early stage. I
Yes.
mean, this is the first trailer, so I mean, just look at Samurai Showdown. If you look at the first trailer, which looked really good, by the way, and compare it to the final game, there is an improvement in terms of shaders, in terms
Of course,
of
of course.
quality of the textures. So yeah, definitely it's not going to be the final one, but it has to be. I think it has to be good enough to not trigger those. Oh man, this looks bad. This is PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, whatever.
Well,
So
I hope, but again, we don't know in which system this game is gonna be announced because we
that's
have
true.
nothing.
That's true. Now I
If
saw
it's
I
a
saw this
PlayStation,
article on Event Hubs last time, and they're basically theorizing that due to the game taking this long and into production, they're speculating that this game might be PlayStation, like next generation or current generation, whatever you want to call it, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, rather than a PlayStation 4. And a lot of people, including myself, are hoping this is not true because I don't want them to miss. I mean, the new consoles, which talked about the new consoles, you and me many times. We still can't get those, even if we want to. But I mean, I think it's too early and again, we don't know when King of Fighters 15 coming out. But if it's coming out in 2020 and in 2021, I mean, I think it's a bit too early for a next generation exclusive.
well, if you ask me, I think depending on the release date, the strategy has to be different. I
Yeah,
mean, if the game actually release next year, maybe a cross generational version can be good.
yeah,
So I mean, since the both new consoles are retro compatible, so it's not going to be any issue, having a game on one and
sure.
be played in other system. So that's a good point. And maybe we can have like an improved graphical version
Hmm.
that can run on the new consoles. But again, I don't know what are the limits they're going to have to face depending on the hardware they have to
Mm,
develop for. So
that's true.
maybe aiming for the next generation console give them more freedom actually for development side.
That's true.
That
I
maybe
see a lot of people and a lot of websites and channels talking about how this cross generation is really holding back these games. And some games, like you've seen what happened with Cyberpunk, is that it's cross generational, but it looks really horrible to you on new console. And they're saying that the fact that they tried to appease, or not appease, but release on these on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is actually holding back what they could do with the actual game. So you make a good point there.
But this is not from a graphical point of view. I mean,
Yes.
maybe more about the frame rate slash content on the screen, point of
Yeah.
view. I want to say
Mm-hmm.
maybe having a game having, maybe, I don't know, crowded backgrounds, many effects,
Yeah,
maybe
which
your
is which
characters
is
waiting
crowded
for,
crowded background is something I really miss in the King of Fighters.
yeah, maybe seeing your characters waiting for their turn, like in all the chaos
Oh, I
things
missed them. That's awesome. Yeah,
that
yeah, I would
that
love
can
for that to
that
happen.
can use a lot of resources, could be done in a more easiest way in new next gen consoles. That's
True.
what I think.
Yeah.
So depending on the ambition in that side, maybe they will aim for next generation console, just to have more freedom,
Yeah.
not to have the best graphics, because if you rise the graphic level, then you cannot do all the thing I'm talking about. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yes.
So because if they rise the graphics, so we'll come back to Square PlayStation 4,
Yeah.
and that's it. But if
Mm-hmm.
they have decent graphics, that kind of cross generation, but have more room to add additional things on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a next generation version on exclusive, I mean, can make sense. That's how I see it. But
True.
in strategic and for the players, of course, it would be better if it's a PS4 slash Xbox One version, because it will allow everyone to play.
That's
And
true.
PS5 can also get the PS4 version. So it's
Yeah.
better for the player and the community.
Yeah.
But again, if an exclusive for next generation can give us this kind of content,
Mm-hmm.
then I see no issues on having an exclusive next gen version.
Yeah. And well, not his expectation. In that interview, when Oda-san talked about how this is going to be a supreme masterpiece, he also touched on the netcode, and of course, netcode is such a sensitive issue became lately. And he kind of said that he knows that people want rollback. He said I can't remember exactly what he said, but he mentioned that people want rollback netcode. Now, a lot of people, including myself, kind of felt that this might be a hint at what's coming out, because they know we want rollback netcode, and the recent changes, the recent updates of the King of Fighters, the other old SNK games, including O2UM just lately with rollback netcode, kind of gave hope to the community that finally we might be getting a King of Fighters 15 with rollback netcode. Is that the same feeling you got when you read that answer?
Mm, I will say something that sounds unoptimistic, but I'm worried that the fact that he hinted that means that he's aware of it, but maybe that's not the plan they have for the game. Like, because I don't see them releasing an information like that in this interview, or even hinted it. It's so huge. You know what I mean? So
Okay, I didn't see
I
it that
felt the
way.
contrary. I say,
Hmm.
why are they talking? Oh, he's talking about that right now. Maybe because he wanted to share that they're aware of that. They can't hide it. They're doing it actually for the other games. So it means that they're aware of what is going on regarding netcodes, regarding rollback and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't read it like, don't worry, that's what we're going to do for KOF 15. I felt like, don't worry, we'll keep doing it for the other games that we're actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe hinting a 98 final edition with rollback netcode, maybe KOF 13, who knows? You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's how he said it, but I didn't quite get it because it's too huge actually to be revealed in some kind of interview like that. That's why but
Mm.
again, I'm thinking a lot. I
Okay.
I don't know, and again, I don't want to put my expectation really
I
high.
agree,
I
because
wanna
I agree, and that's my fear, because if you looked at Twitter, everybody was screaming in excitement that that seems like KOF 15 has rollback netcode. But as I said before, I don't care if it's rollback or delay or something that I haven't heard of, like some new technology. As long as it's playable, it doesn't matter what do you call it, right? So as long as we have a good netcode, and I know rollback has got this really good reputation, and rightfully so, but I think you shouldn't just say, "Oh, this is." It's like you try. It's like a kid when you try something like, I don't know, candy or like some kind of food. And you're like, this is the best thing. I don't want anything else except this. But doing that, you actually blocking yourself and locking yourself from trying something else that might be better or at the same level. So I don't really care whatever they call it, whatever it is, as long as we can play really good online matches.
Mm, mm, mm.
Um,
Well,
Go ahead.
well, you said something that is key for me. I, I'm I'm like you. I don't care about the technology name as long as it works. Yes, and for older games, we've seen that rollback is doing miracles. So
Hmm.
for sure, games that you never dream of playing online, thanks to rollback, it's actually possible. And I'm enjoying 2002 UM like never. It's so good to be able to play from home. Uh, but again, 14 worked for me very well, and I still don't understand players that having issues with this game. Maybe here in Morocco we have an outstanding internet that I'm not aware of, but I had a great experience playing 14 online and playing with players from all Europe, even from with players in Turkey, with players from US East Coast with no real issues. So again, for me, as long as it works, exactly as like you said, I don't care about the technology. But unfortunately, we're in a position now where rollback became a marketing trend. You know,
Correct.
so it's for a reason, because actually, when it's done well, it works very good.
Hmm.
Nobody can complain about that. And I'm not saying that it's just a marketing thing. I'm just saying that if you don't put that word in your communication, a lot of people can
Hmm.
just block themselves and not pay attention to your game. Even if the netcode is actually working, they will just say,
Yeah.
no, that's not, no roll code, no love, no bias,
Yeah.
etc. And I'm worried about that. I'm more worried about the consequences of
Of not.
no rollback in terms of reputation, marketing, communication, than actually how it's going to affect the game. If it
Yeah.
has rollback, it's very good. If it has a good rollback, it's very good. If it has a good something else netcode that works, it's very good. But
Correct.
if it's not called rollback,
I might. Yeah.
I'm
I
worried
understand.
about the
Yeah. Yeah.
consequences for the game, for the community, for
Hmm.
the ability to game to grow. So I'm a kind of mixed position. Of course, if it has rollback and a working rollback, it's the perfect world. And I know that this is not something very easy and realistic to hope for, especially if you see all the latest Japanese productions. Like they weren't really able to actually be successful with that netcode.
Hmm.
Like we're still waiting for Giga Strives that announced rollback, but we have to see.
Yeah.
So until then, it's very 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 difficult. I want to wish for it. I want to pray for it,
Yeah.
because it will benefits to players and the reputation of the game, and it. But if it's not really possible, if they can't do it,
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the netcode. I'm worried about the game reputation.
Correct. I agree. I mean, that's a very, very good point. Now, still speaking about netcode and like online features, a lot of people are hoping for crossplay to become like a trend, to become a normal thing for games. Now, crossplay, the first, well, I don't think it was the first time, but it was Street Fighter Five was done in a way, it was different. They went with like servers, and it was implemented between the PC and PlayStation. But then since then, a lot of the technology has evolved, and now the Unreal Engine actually allows for crossplay between as far as I understand, between different consoles. Do you think this is something that SNK could look into, and this is something that's going to benefit the game, or is it not really that important?
Well, depending of the release state of the game, I will say,
Hmm.
I'm explaining. If the game is exclusive to one machine for some kind of amount of time, doesn't really matter actually.
Hmm.
If the game is out on PlayStation 5 and exclusive to PlayStation 5 for 1 year or something, even if the PC version or Xbox version comes later, the main core of the community will already be on the
That's true.
major console. So that's not a big deal in that way.
Yeah.
But if they had a cross release, I mean Xbox and PS5, or Xbox, PS5 and PC and Switch, or I don't know, whatever
Yeah.
they can release the game on, then the lack of crossplay is going to be a real problem,
Yeah.
because the community will be shattered.
Yeah.
You will have to decide. So for KOF 13, we all went to Xbox, but not for online reasons, but because the game runs better on
Hmm.
Xbox, and that's it.
Yeah.
So the community will have to make a choice depending on what is the best version. And I know that core KOF players, they can buy a console for play KOF for the best
Hmm.
condition, but that's not the case of everyone.
Correct.
So we're gonna be in a very, very weird situation, because I'm seeing Xbox doing way better than the last generation. So I'm expecting a lot of people that will actually go for Xbox.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing a lot more and more people going to PC, especially for fighting
Sure.
games,
Yeah.
because of the ability to remove the vertical sync, the V-sync.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
removes some frames of lag, so it gives the overall experience better, especially online, because that's less lag online.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are going to PC. So I'm looking that the community is going to be very, very, very shattered in different machines. So if it's actually released on the three of them, it will not benefit the online community for sure,
Yeah.
if there is no crossplay. But again, I know, like, we know SNK is not a huge developing team, you know,
Yeah. True.
and I don't see them putting that much effort on the game value in terms of characters, system, gameplay, and thing, and still have the room to actually do something complicated,
Yeah.
like crossplay, especially using the engine, because it's something new for them. So as long as they don't hire people for doing that
Hmm.
and specialize in that, I don't imagine that as a realistic thing for a small dev team like SNK. And again, I'm just put,
Yeah.
pushing my blog. So it's not a good thing if it's not there. But again,
But the good thing
it's
about these kind of things, like looking at other games, like Mortal Kombat 11, for example, the game released in 2019, and they haven't had crossplay until about 4 or 5 months ago. I think they were able to add it about a year after release, or more than a year. And so if it's even if we get it later, I think it will still be some sort of benefit.
well, I will tell you something. Mortal Kombat is a triple A game. It
True,
sells in millions of
that's
copies.
true. Mhm.
I don't see KOF reaching a million of copies on first
Unfortunately, you're right. Yeah,
release.
right.
It's more a double A kind of game.
Mhm.
So I know it's a fighting game. They're doing it, so let's have it. But
The
they
budgets
don't
are
have
not the same. The Yeah,
same, yes, same. So of course I can be still hoping and confident that maybe we're gonna have some surprises, but I also try to be realistic. We're
that's
talking
true.
KOF.
That's a
It's a
good
niche
approach.
it's a niche game in a niche genre. We have to remember that.
That is a good approach. That is definitely a good approach. Now, since we talked a little bit about Mortal Kombat, now Mortal Kombat is known for its story mode, extensive story mode, cinematic even story mode, and a lot of people want that again in King of Fighters, but we know that's not going to be possible because again, for the same reasons we talked about. But what are your hopes? And do you usually play these story modes? Are you interested in the story mode? Are you more into the competitive aspects? And what are your hopes from a story mode for the King of Fighters 15?
Well, I'll be honest. I love story modes, and I'm always excited about them when they put in the game. But I will tell you something. The more the game is interesting to play, the less I spend time doing story modes and things like that. 13 had a very crazy story mode with a lot of scenes and things like that. To be honest, I never played the whole thing. I have maybe more than 2,000 hours in KOF 13 only on Xbox version, because I also played in other version
Yeah,
and finished this. And even 14, I think I didn't unlock all the endings
yeah,
of this game. Even all this time,
yeah.
maybe I'll do it before 15, but again, it's my personal point of view, but I never find enough time to
To
not
Yeah,
practice or play and do the
yeah,
story mode
yeah, and so
content.
yeah,
If I have time to play, I will go to practice and spend hours in training or go play against someone.
yeah.
And
So
that's
that's the
why,
fun of a fighting game, playing against
yeah,
someone,
yeah. So
being
that's
in
why I love
that.
that content, but I will not fool myself.
Yeah,
I, I can't, you know, I can't
Yeah,
afford it.
yeah,
I can't afford this kind of content because my time is limited. And when
yeah.
I can play, I will just go play. And for me, like training mode is the best one player mode ever, ever, ever in all fighting games.
That makes sense. Now, one last question is regarding King of Fighters 15. Which characters do you want back that we didn't have in 14, and which characters in 14 that you want back that you absolutely want back?
Well, let's start from the first question. I'll say if I can pick one, it's impossible, but I will just say I want to see because I'm expecting Ash Crimson to be back. If
Oh,
you've
the
seen,
ending. I mean, I think he's almost a given, and honestly, I will be surprised if we don't see a hint in that first trailer, even because
yeah. So
he's
because it
pretty
was
much coming
obvious
back.
if you see the
Yeah.
ending, so I really wish his two teammates Shen and Duolan came back because
All
they're
right. Okay.
one of my favorite characters. And if you go further than that, I would love to see Krauser
Oh
to
yes.
be in the game,
Hmm.
AG Kisaragi,
Hmm.
Gato, and maybe because of KOF 14 endings, what about Chrysalid, KOF 99
Yes.
boss?
Yeah.
He's K-Dash clone, and K-Dash is my favorite character, so I don't
Yeah.
mind having two K-Dashes in my team.
Yeah, yeah, and again, from the story, Chrysalid is alive. Gonitz or Genitz, is it Genitz or Gonitz? I keep it.
Genitz, Genitz.
Genitz is alive. The three characters, I mean, the new team, Yashiro, Shermie, and Chris are alive. So all these are possibilities to to see them in a game. I think it'll be exciting. Now,
And
which
about the
character
return,
from 14 that you want that you really want
well,
back?
we know that K-Dash is there,
Yeah,
so
that's you're good on that one.
yeah, well, I would say Kukri,
Hmm.
and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be there, and
Yeah.
Vanessa. That's the two characters.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Now, I know I said the last question, but I'm gonna add one more. Which character you do not want to see back in King of Fighters 15? Which character that you hate in the King of Fighters series?
I hate a lot of characters in
Oh,
Hero Legends.
really? All right.
Well, personally, Choi and Chang, if they're
Oh,
not
come
there,
on. No, Choi and Chang,
uh,
man.
no,
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 no, no.
I
I
love them.
see.
I love them,
Uh,
but I hate fighting them. Come on, I don't want to fight Choi. You know what? Choi is too dangerous if he's strong. It
I know.
ruins the game,
I
you
know.
know. So these two, well, because they come together. Well, in 2003 we had Chang without Choi, but if those two characters are not there again, I will not be sad or anything. And I don't want to see, well, I made peace with Malin, but I hated Malin in 2003. Actually, that's the only character in KOF I never picked in my life.
Really?
Never. Never. I didn't play roulette in 2003 just to be sure that I will never have her. I never picked that character in my life. I never pick her. But in 11, she's really fun. So I made peace with her. Uh, I don't mind about Momoko also.
Hmm.
The game style is cool, but not my kind of
Hmm.
character, you know, like small, no reach, and just
Yeah.
not my kind of character. But that's it. Besides that, and of course, the maximum impact characters,
Yeah.
they can
Yeah.
they're in a very good place, and they
Yeah.
have to stay.
I agree. So I mean, January 7th is not that
No, I
far.
don't want to
Yeah.
see Nakoruru. Actually, I forgot about her. I don't want
Oh,
to see
really?
her. No, no, no. I don't want to see Samurai Showdown in
I
KOF.
agree. You know,
I don't. I don't.
it was okay because we didn't have a Samurai Showdown game in a long time, but then now we have a very good and awesome Samurai Showdown game, so we don't need that.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I
no.
agree. I agree.
That doesn't work. It doesn't work well at
Yeah,
all.
she and
Well,
the fact that she was broken in the first few months didn't
it
help
didn't
either.
help. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh no, it just doesn't fit
yeah.
the urban, you know, ambience
Hmm.
of,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
No, I don't. No.
All right. Well, January 7th is not far, so we still have a few weeks. Can't wait for that. Definitely, I'll try to, try to do this again if you have some time after we have the reveal. So we'll talk about what we know about the game.
No problem.
But Frionel, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. It's always a great joy talking to you about the King of Fighters and seeing how much you love this franchise and fighting games in general. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for
Um,
inviting me.
and yeah, again, we'll definitely try to do this next time after the trailer. But one last message to people who are in the KOF community who really want to get into the competitive scene. Maybe they couldn't they were intimidated by all the great players that are already there? Or what's your your advice for these guys who maybe wants to make King of Fighters 15 their first step into a competitive career, competitive life?
Well, there's no official keys to success or quick wins for that matter. What I will just say is try the game, play the game, try to understand the game. If you love the game, everything else will come by itself. Your own motivation will create the doors you need. You will find the strength. You'll find the confidence to go ask other players to play. You'll find the confidence to go ask for knowledge. That's all about loving the game and having the time. That's the balance. If you can succeed to have both, I don't worry. I'm sure I'll be playing you in a very soon. So that's the message I want to say. Give the game a chance. Try it. If you love it, the doors will open by themselves.
All right, my friend, thank you so much. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.